doctor, lawyer, chef. And I'm like, see, it's on the list. I get a dishwashing job at 14 and that's it.
Hey there, Charlie McDermott, back here with my co-host, Matt Geiger. Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing great today, Charlie. How are you?
Doing terrific.
Good.
You had a busy weekend as usual. Once
course.
again, we're back in the studio here on a Monday morning. You're still standing, or at least sitting.
Sitting.
So what kind of events did you do over the weekend?
Well, this weekend I did a couple. I did a small wedding at a little venue, and then I did a dinner party in someone's home. So it was pretty good.
Very cool.
Yeah. It was like a surprise party over here off McGregor, and a really good family. Everybody's really good, and the wedding was happy too. So I can't complain when I have a weekend full of happy events.
I'll tell you, happy weddings, you can't take those for granted. I remember a good buddy of mine many moons ago.
Mm-hmm.
They got to the point where they cut the cake, and then they either decide to smash it in each other's faces or not. He unfortunately made an error in judgment and smashed it in his no longer wife, but then wife, and it did not go well. To the point where he got shoved into the speakers. The speakers like tumbled. I mean, you talk about an awkward moment. We're all kind of standing there like, what do you even say? So my buddy's brother, I'm standing next to him. And he looks around and says, kind of shrugs his shoulder and says, guess you didn't like the cake. And we all just cracked up.
That's wild. Oh my God. That would be the most awkward thing ever, just to like sit there and watch it all unfold. And you're supposed to be like a guest at a wedding saying, oh, this is such a great time. Okay, whose side do we take?
Yeah, well, that was also like because she went storming out of the room, and it was oof.
Oh,
so anyway, never take a good, happy wedding for granted.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, there's always things that happen at them. I've seen, perfect weddings. I've seen weddings that just don't go as planned, and a lot of that has to do with planning. And it's kind of good that we're talking about this, because weddings is a huge part of what I do, and the planning process is going to reflect on how well your wedding day goes over. I mean, granted, your expectations, right? If your expectations are, I'm just going to have a relaxed, chill day, whatever, but some people's expectations are to the moon, and they're only going to get there if they have really good planning. So I always tell people, book their parties, go get their venue first, and book that out a year or more in advance. If you really want to choose your venue, book it out a year or more in advance. We're already booking for spring of 2024 for catering. So, just to give people an idea of how far people are booking out. And I don't know what other companies do. I take on 2 events a day. I have 2 full-time chefs. I have leads and stuff out in the field, and I just feel comfortable we can only do 2. I want to keep the quality level high. So if I'm only going to take 2, that means if someone's booking out a year or 2 years in advance, then they're going to get precedence. And if you're going to wait for 6 months before your wedding to book one of your vendors, there's just no way that some people can accommodate. I mean, not saying you won't be able to find some vendors, but you're not going to have the pick that maybe you want. You're going to look through all the reviews, look through pictures, go on the internet, look at Wedding Wire and all this stuff, and maybe the people that you are seeing everywhere that you like a lot, they're probably going to be taken. So, I mean, you definitely want to get that planned ahead. And I always say get your venue first, because you don't know whether your venue allows an outside caterer, which is what I would be considered. I'm not saying we're outside in the air, but outside meaning they don't have an in-house caterer that does all their events, right? So if the venue does not, then we're not the caterer for you. That's okay. We still do, bridal showers and brunch after Sunday brunches and,
and private dinners.
Oh, all the time. And we go to all the wedding shows down here, and a lot of them will be like, oh, man, we wish we could have had you, but we're getting married at this hotel. And it's like, that's no problem. We do rehearsal dinners. We'll do brunches. We'll do other stuff. Yeah. So you can still book something, even if, unfortunately, you couldn't book us for the wedding. So there's other ways to get us, involved in everything. But so it goes venues, caterer, and then after that you can fill in the blanks with all like your florists and DJs and all that kind of stuff. But even those, I mean, a lot of my good friend DJs, I mean, they're booking out a year, and they can only be in one place.
Yep. Yeah, that's a really good point. So then on the catering side, assuming that it's an event that either doesn't provide catering or, well, I guess that's, whatever, you're looking for a caterer. What's that process look like? What do you typically do or see, or how's that work for someone who, I mean, again, not hopefully, but most people, this is the first time they're ever doing it. And hopefully it's their last, but they've never gone through this process before.
Right. So so you're asking what's the process of actually booking, going from not having a caterer to having me in your home or at your event? Well, I always tell people the easiest way to get a hold of us is through the website. And I'm not speaking for other caterers. I'm only speaking for me. This is my podcast, so I'm going to stick to what we do. But, where we get backed up on phone calls and we spend a lot of time, trying to figure out what happens, I would say at the very first, go Google caterers. If you're Googling in the Fort Myers area, we're going to come up close at the top. From there, you go to the website. We have some information. We have pictures. We have testimonials. We have lists of venues that we work with and vendors that we work with. And from there, we have a form that you can actually fill out. And when you fill out the form, it's going to go straight to instantly. If you do it Monday through Friday in the middle of the day, chances are you'll get a call back within an hour or two. Once we receive the email on our end, we'll kind of go through the general idea. It doesn't have to be exact, obviously. People don't really know right off the bat what they're doing, and a lot of people haven't used catering before. So Mitchie, I have a girl in here named Mitchie. She'll go through the email, kind of see if there's anything difficult or weird or out of the ordinary. She might consult with me, but she's doing really good. And then she'll just reach out to you. She'll give you a call. She'll give you an email back. Even if we can't get a hold of you, we'll get a proposal kind of ready for you. So then when you do call back or when we do make contact or you do email us back, you get a real proposal. It might not be exactly what you want, and most of the time it's not, but it'll give you a good starting point with some real numbers on it, with some actual real dollar value itemized out and timeline and stuff that kind of gives you the general idea of how your event would go, because this is what we do all the time. So a lot of times when people ask us questions, well, what time should we do this or what time? It's well, what time do you want to eat? And we'll base the whole timeline off of that. You don't have to go into detail about how cocktail hour should be 45 minutes or 50 minutes or what. Let us figure that out. And then if you have to change it, no problem. Yeah. But sometimes when you try to micromanage the person that does it all the time, you're going to cause unnecessary waves in the event. It's not going to go as smooth as you're thinking in your head. Yeah.
So give it to the professional, right?
Yeah, someone for the most part. Yeah, because everybody has an idea in their head, and I totally get it, especially for weddings. I always tell people, when they want to do their speeches, some of them will do them at a weird time, after dinner or before. It's I always like them doing their speeches right either when they sit down for dinner or when if they're getting a plated meal when their salad gets dropped, because that's the only time in the entire evening that you have your guests' undivided attention. Yeah. Period. Yeah. Cocktail hour, they're all over the place. They're at the bar, they're getting hors d'oeuvres, they're mingling around. The bride and groom's taking pictures. After dinner, boom, they're at each other's tables. They're talking to people. They're going to the bar. They're going to the dance floor. The salad or the beginning of the meal is the only time in the entire event where everybody, other than the ceremony, of course, that they have your total undivided attention. So if there's anything you want to address or say thank you or start speeches or anything, that's the time to do it. You know what I mean? And then,
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and people don't think about that because they get their timeline, they get looked up on Pinterest or something, and they go along with that timeline. But it's got to make sense. Not saying that it doesn't work any other way. That's just how we like to do it. Another really good piece of advice for people planning weddings would be when to do first dances and stuff, because people will do their dances right after speeches. Right before the meal, and then they sit down and they eat. Okay, well, if you wait and you put your first dances and all that stuff to the end of the meal, it's a really easy, good transition for everybody to come to the dance floor and start dancing now. Otherwise, it's really hard to get people up. It's really hard to. People think everybody goes to weddings to get their groove on, but you have to get them on the floor. And if you're not going to get them on the floor, it's impossible. And some venues are harder than others. So I always try to tell people, put that off. I know you want to just get everything done and get it out of the way, but strategize your night for the ultimate guest experience and make it an easy flow, because going from father-daughter dances and all that stuff to the cha-cha slide is a really easy, wave of events. But if you're dancing, then sit down, then eat, then there's no transition into dancing, and then you're not going to get half your
Nobody wants to be the spotlight, the ice there, that first dance. Take advantage of the.
And I would say less than 50% of the time people do that. They still go with their first dance and stuff before dinner, and more power to them. We're just there for the food and service, so you take our suggestions however you like. But we do classes. We're a part of NAWP, which is the National Association of Wedding Professionals, and we do seminars and stuff, trying to always improve ourselves every year. And these are the things that people smarter than me came up with, and I just try to. Some things work, some things don't, but a lot of it's really good information because these people only do that. So definitely. So I guess we kind of got a sidestep off of the transition from no caterer to me being in your home. But after you send an email, you'll get a proposal. We'll go through when we have a general idea of what you like, and if you're comfortable with us, then that would be the time to get a deposit in. It's always better to get a deposit in sooner than later, just so that we can get you on the books and nobody can book over that date. Because whether it's a wedding or a dinner party of 12 people, like I said, we do 2 events. Doesn't matter the monetary value, doesn't matter anything like that. I just, that's how I control quality. And and you can still make changes after. I tell everybody, if you were almost there and you're feeling good and maybe you're just going to do little tweaks, get your deposit in. Let's get that over with, and then we can breathe. And then come together, 2 or 3 weeks before and make your minor changes. And we're pretty responsive. We try to be, at least.
So what would you say, Matt, your most popular or some of your most popular meals or combinations?
Oh, I hate that question. In the wedding world, for the most part, play it safe, and we let people choose whatever menus they like. However, we do provide a menu package that has things on there. It helps us too, having a package. Then we're not, bogged down in the kitchen. If we have a couple parties or 3 or 4 parties over the weekend, we're not doing 4 or 5 different menus. We're doing, But
plus, I couldn't imagine going in. There are just too many things to choose from. I like it when I can see, hey, this option, this option, this option. It really simplifies.
See, and I'm the same way. I'm the same way, and I've had people come up with crazy menus. I'm like, why do you want 4 proteins? Why do you need 5 sides? There's no way they're going to eat the food, and at the end of the day, nobody wants to pay for it, right? Because I'm not going to do, unless it's RSVP'd and plated, I'm not going to do, if there's 50 people, 25 of this and 25 of that. It's tacky to tell someone no at a buffet, right? Nope, you can't have that. You can't do that.
Right.
So it's a dual entree. 99% of the time we do a dual entree. Everybody can have everything, or they don't, or someone picks and choose or whatever.
Right.
If we do, you can always tell us if there's a vegetarian or vegan or gluten-free or whatever person. We'll make a side meal and we'll keep it in the back, and then when they come through, we'll give it to them. But we're not going to nitpick the menu and make it difficult for my staff and the guest. And I don't like the telling people no on a buffet thing. That is just, or like a ticket. Some people are like, oh, we can get tickets. I'm like, oh my God, you can't do that. And I don't want to disrespect anybody doing that at their wedding. So I don't want anybody to come after me for that and say, he said it's tacky. But, in my experience, it just doesn't go over well, because whether or not that's what the bride or groom wanted, they're not there at the buffet. And when I say no, I get an eye roll or something from them. And then now I'm the enemy because I yesed the client to death, So we try to make everything mutually beneficial for the good of the whole event. and that's really tough sometimes.
Yeah.
But
One other question comes to mind, and this may not apply down the road. Hopefully, it all changes next month, but probably comes up currently for you, inflation.
Oh man.
Right? If I'm booking something that's whatever, a year and a half in the future, does that question come up?
Yeah,
And how do you deal with that?
it didn't until COVID. COVID started that kind of whole talk. Not necessarily about the inflation, but what happens if we have a shutdown or whatever.
Yeah,
We've never had to worry about that ever. I'll work with people to my best ability. Absolutely. We gave deposits back. We moved parties around, all that stuff in COVID. And, it hurt, but it is what it is. As far as inflation goes, though, I'm hoping that it levels out here. If it's going to stay, I'd rather it stayed than fluctuate so much. But, I mean, with what I charge people, again, we're not the very top of the market and we're not the bottom. We're, I like to say we're a little bit more than the middle area, upper middle area as far as budget goes. I don't really fluctuate my prices like that. So in the first time in 3 years, this is the first season where I actually went up in my prices, but I went up across the board. I know some other catering companies, they'll bid out the jobs and their prices fluctuate quite a bit. I know I've been, half of my competition's price, and then I've been double that same competition's price. So I tell everybody I'm very consistent, mostly because I use a computer program for all of our invoicing and proposals and stuff. So my staff isn't coming up with these prices. I've come up with these prices, they're putting them in, and it just does it automatically. And in the first time in 3 years, I did raise my prices, not crazy, but just enough to account for it. For instance, my tenderloin used to be, $10 a pound. And when I order a case of it, it's like 90 pounds, right? And I go through a case a week or more sometimes, depending on the size of the events that are coming up. So I mean, I'm spending $1,000 a week in just one thing, in just tenderloin, right? But there's still labor, there's still chicken, there's still, there's a lot of other ingredients and things, but that's a big ticket item and it eats up a lot. Now that same case of tenderloin is $15 a pound. It went up $5. That's 33%. That's insane. Right? So instead of $1,000 a week, now it's $1,500 a week. And it doesn't kill me on it like as a big. For me, I kind of get I am lucky in the sense that I book quantity, right? So it doesn't hurt as much as if it was just like a singled out thing, right? I'm selling 100 of it, so the blow is a little bit less, but it's still a blow. So I rose my old wedding package started at $25, and then this year I rose it to $28. So I rose it $3. It wasn't significant. It wasn't crazy. I thought it was fair. And people still get sticker shocked anyways, even at $25 for 200 people. They're still getting sticker shock. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to have a 200 or 250 person wedding. Even the barbecue menu. I started doing barbecue last year, and just to have another option for people that maybe didn't have the budget or wanted something a little bit more casual. But even that is like $18 or whatever, and you get 250 people. You add staff on there. And you add the service charge, and then they're just like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. And I'm like, that's the price. It's 250 people. I didn't choose the size of your wedding, and of course I'm not going to say that to my customer. We always try to work with them as best as possible. You can't, if you have that expectation, it comes down to simple math. At $20 a head for 200 people, a few $1,000 plus taxes and fees and plus staff. And that's what it is. And people always try to come down on the staff too. They want us to take staff off parties, but we put them on proposals for a reason. If we thought we could do it with less staff, believe me, I would put less staff on there 100%. I'm not going to eat up the labor for no reason. And I want to make sure they have the best service they can. And once you start taking staff, you're starting to put more strain on the ones that are existing there still. So, it is certain things. Certain customer service is hard. Is hard, but
That it is. Well, that helps. I know with my restaurant years ago, and important controlling food costs were back then, and it's interesting. You do what you do, and you're able to contain it the way you have, because it's got to be a moving target. I just know from going to the grocery store and what I used to buy.
Oh, absolutely.
3 months ago, 6 months ago, and today it's like, wow.
Yeah, if you go to like Publix or normal grocery store, like 1 quart of cream is like $6 or $8 for a quart. Yeah. I go through 12 to 20 a week, or more. Sometimes I'll go through 3 cases, which is 36. So it's absolutely gone up. And you know what? That is a part of what that service charge is for too. I know people are always scrutinizing the service charge, but that's why it's there. It's there so that I don't have to raise my prices 5 times a year. It's there because there's other things other than food and stuff out of my control or the customer's control. That service charge helps us do that because things are not, we can't predict what's going to happen. We don't know if a car is going to break down. We don't know if, how this month all of our insurances. This whole part of my business, we'll do this on another podcast, just like about running my business, but the whole like behind the scenes is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I mean, we have 4 or 5. We have 5 vehicles. That's 5 registrations, 5 insurances. 5 cleaning stuff, 5 maintenance, whatever, tires, whatever. Like all that stuff's not going to come out of your food. There's no way. There's no way. So for a few times a year, we got to get that. And that's what that service charge is for. But we'll get in that to another podcast. I think we did good.
I like that.
I think we're in a good spot to end it today, unless you have any other questions for me.
No. I like the behind the scenes. What really goes on in a catering?
Yeah, running a catering business, what goes in, what's other than doing the food, there's a lot of other things at hand. That's a good topic we can do on the next one.
All right. Well, hey, man, this has been great. I know it's going to be really helpful for folks that are doing the wedding catering event for the first time, or, hey, even if you're experienced. So you gave some really good glimpses into how to navigate the wedding, hopefully not storm, wedding waters, wedding curves. Right. We'll go with that. Yeah, I can't get that visual of my friend in that wedding out of my head.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, and I'll get into some other stories too. I got some stories too, but some of them might not be too appropriate.
All right, we'll save that for a later episode.
For sure.
All right, Matt. Well, great seeing you, and we'll catch up real soon and talk about behind the scenes stuff.
Yep, that's awesome. You have a great day. Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you for listening to the Savor Food Podcast. To learn more about Savor First Choice Catering, go to savorfirstchoicecatering.com. That's Savor, SAVOUR, First, FIRST, Choice, CHOICE, Catering, CATERING.com, or call 239-351-5547.